for the Ashes in December, and you've said a couple of times now that when the opportunity presents itself, you'll speak with Emmanuel Macron. But have you reached out? Have you offered have you tried to call him and speak to him now? And is he just not taking your call?
Yes, we have, and the opportunity for that call is not yet. But we'll be patient. We understand their disappointment, and that is the way you manage difficult issues. It's a difficult decision. It's a very difficult decision. And of course, we had to weigh up what would be the obvious disappointment to France. But at the end of the day, as a government, we have to do what is right for Australia and serve Australia's national security interests. And I will always choose Australia's national security interests first.
A couple of weeks ago, Australia, the United States, and the United Kingdom announced a new security pact called AUKUS, which will result in the three countries collaborating in the Indo Pacific region. The announcement of AUKUS sets up a financial and strategic loss for France, and it also represents an increasing investment by a subset of Western democracies in a specific region, and it looks like Europe isn't being included. China's military is growing, and it currently has the largest naval force on the planet. In 2016, Australia, equipped with submarines that were nearing their end of service and also feeling the growing pressure from China, secured a $90 billion submarine deal with the French naval defense contractor Naval Group, and this deal would give Australia possession of 12 short-fin Barracuda-based attack-class diesel-electric submarines. The diesel, as opposed to nuclear-powered subs, would have been cheaper to run and maintain, but they would have needed to resurface more, be smaller, and would have had a weaker propulsion system. The French deal became precarious after a lack of demand for local Australian industry wasn't fulfilled, along with cost overruns, delays, and an increasing demand for more powerful submarines. Nuclear-powered subs can remain submerged for longer amounts of time, are larger, and are also more expensive, but when it comes to submerged propulsion, speed underwater, nuclear power is simply the better option. The value of the nuclear subs seems to have overweighed the value of the diesel ones, and Australia has announced that their deal with France is over, as they put in a new order with the United States for at least 8 nuclear-powered hunter-killer submarines as part of their new security pact. Countries across the world are putting their attention towards the Indo Pacific. A pretty large place, it's home to 60% of the world's population, produces 60% of the global GDP, and it's also the second largest destination for exports from the EU. For member states like France, a country with more than 1 million citizens in the area, as well as stationed troops, their objectives have been made clear. France wants to be a stabilizing force, promote the values of freedom and the rule of law, and help solve certain geopolitical challenges. For the EU specifically, by pivoting off of individual member states' own goals, as well as being primarily led by France, the EU has announced that they will focus on reinforcing cooperation, promote a rules-based international order, keep open markets, and ensure a stable trading environment. However, unfortunately for them, on the same day that the EU was set to make their official announcement for their Indo-Pacific strategy, AUKUS was also announced. And that means that the three countries that were already notorious for being excessively loud when it's not socially acceptable decided to announce their own private clubhouse in the Indo-Pacific region, overshadowing the EU's announcement and forcing Europe to reconsider their overall strategy. Macron has already begun signaling for a larger push in European sovereignty, saying things like Europeans must stop being naive. When we are under pressure from powers, which at times harden, we need to react and show that we have the power and capacity to defend ourselves. This statement happened alongside a new defense pact announced with Greece, where France will supply the Eastern European country with French frigates supplied by, of course, Naval Group. Recently, Charles Michel, the European Council President, also declared that 2022 will be the year of European defense. We want less dependency, we want more influence because we have values to promote. Next year, France will also take over the rotating presidency of the Council. Although this mainly grants France some form of agenda setting, it's already clear that the French will set the focus of their presidency on power and defense, with the European Defense Summit also being led by Macron in 2022. If there is any time to look at how a European army might develop, that time is now. Back in 2020, EU defense ministers began working on a strategic compass for security and defense. The adoption will happen in the first half of 2022 alongside France's presidency, and in that document, we should be able to see Europe's vision, not necessarily of the entire population, but definitely of Europe's political establishment, for what kind of security and defense actor Europe will be. Common defense policies fall under member states, which means that they're essentially gridlocked. A single veto can block its creation. Although the adoption of a European army is highly improbable now, there are steps that set a groundwork where it becomes increasingly more likely. For example, like in many other policy domains, Europe has fragmented military industries that can cause coordination problems. Take, for example, CARD.
Initiated by the Council of the European Union by 2016, the Coordinated Annual Review on Defence, or CARD, provides a comprehensive picture of the European defence landscape to member states for the first time, including capability, research, and industrial aspects. The objectives of CARD are to analyse national defence planning and development, to help member states identify opportunities for cooperation in critical areas, and to serve as a pathfinder for collaborative capability development projects.
CARD has recommended a joint development of different military defense technologies because a lack of coherence can have a negative impact on the ability of member states' forces to operate together efficiently. An example of this is the European main battle tank, which is a combination of military technology between Krauss-Maffei-Wegmann of Germany and Nexter Systems of France. Although it's too early to say anything substantial about how this will contribute to European defense concretely, it's a clear example of how fragmentation of the military in Europe can be changed. Overall, a construction of a European army is likely to mirror other examples of where Europe has integrated. Small incremental steps that make a larger coordinated European policy that ends up replacing national fragmentation seem like it was always to be expected.